All right, here with Josh Shorter. Josh Shorter is the owner of multiple companies. Shorter Porter, a company that offers contracting solutions for homeowners and commercial properties. He's also the owner of Gold Star, or part owner of Gold Star, which offers electrical contracting for residential and commercial properties. He has a background in electrical systems and completed large jobs at DFW Airport and several commercial retail centers. He has a wide range of knowledge in construction and is able to educate and help homeowners with all their needs. Welcome, Joshua Lee Shorter.
Thank you.
Yes.
Live audience, thank you.
100%, man. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming. It's really cool to talk to you. Got a couple things on the docket today.
Okay.
We're going to be talking tips and tricks for homeowners, what they need to look for when buying a house or when they're already in their current home. And then we're also going to talk about, now that you have two companies, which has happened pretty recently, but pretty awesome transition. We're going to talk about how that came to be and what kind of your mindset was going into it and how it's working out so far. Yeah, I know. Like, that's the thing. There's a lot of things that people don't understand about starting a business. I think that entrepreneurship is very much glorified in social media and whatnot. And it is awesome. It is awesome to be able to work for yourself, but there's also a weight that's put on you because everything's on your shoulders. There's nothing to fall back on. You're bringing in the money. If you don't bring in the money, then
you got no money.
Then you got nothing to eat, and having a child and a wife to take care of, that adds a little bit of pressure. Yep. You got to pay for your house, someplace to live. So awesome. So welcome. A little bit about your background. You went to Texas A&M. He's a huge A&M supporter. Gig 'em Aggies. I had Lucas Boyd on here yesterday. He, or maybe it won't be yesterday on here, but on the last podcast, and I told everybody that he went to Mississippi State, which he promptly. I
was like, where did he go? He went to Ole Miss.
He went to Ole Miss. Yeah. So that was a gaffe. But then he said, "Oh, you went to Texas, right?" So I understand why he made that mistake.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that kind of makes me mad.
Man. So tell me about your time at A&M.
Man, A&M seems like it's getting farther and farther away.
Yeah, because it is.
And I haven't been to College Station 2 years.
Yeah.
I did go last year. We just went down for that game though. But time at A&M was awesome. I had some awesome roommates my freshman year.
Yeah.
I was a roommate freshman year.
I remember that very well.
4 of us in a 3-bedroom apartment.
Yes, which was like honestly probably one of the coolest years of my life.
Yep.
I mean, it really was.
Yep. And then you look back and you're like, man, you don't know anything.
Yeah.
And then you go to your sophomore year and I finally transferred in A&M. I went to Blinn my first year, and it opened my eyes to I didn't like A&M whenever I went there, just because I thought it was super conservative, and then after I left, I was like, man, I really kind of missed that bubble in College Station. That
hold on, you didn't like it?
I didn't like it when I was there.
When you were at A&M, you didn't like it? I had no idea.
Yeah, I did not. In fact,
what?
I didn't. It was, all right, I got to get through this because I was working 2 jobs, paid for my way through school, at the apartment and then at the bar and a couple other jobs.
What didn't you like about it?
Besides, I think I just didn't like how many people there were.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm I guess an outgoing person, and I've met a bunch of people.
Yeah.
But I just, everywhere you went, there was 1,000 people. I didn't like, taking my shirt off at a football game and getting yelled at to put my shirt on by the, ultra conservative students there.
Yeah.
And then once I graduated and I came to a big city, I was like, man, this city's terrible. I want to go back to my bubble where everybody's my age.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I liked it. Don't get me wrong. I'm a huge A&M fan, and now that I'm gone, I wish I was back there. But at the time, 2003 to 2006, I just didn't like it.
That's wild. I didn't know that. All these years that we've talked about it, I didn't know that. Like, while when you lived there, you weren't a big fan.
I guess I didn't grow up until after I left A&M.
Yeah.
And then once I graduated, I was like, man, I should have learned some of these things in college.
I think the interesting thing about college, and I'm not a guy that thinks that you have to go to college to like make something of yourself. I think that a lot of times college is just 4 years to blow off, screw off, do whatever, right? Like you just You don't, you're, yeah, not for, or not, that's not the case for everybody.
Right.
There's a lot of people that, grind it out, hit the books and really like learn what they're supposed to learn.
Right.
I think there is a sense of accomplishment. I feel very accomplished that I graduated from A&M, but I also don't think that it necessarily prepared me in the way like that I should have been prepared. And I'm not putting that on A&M. I'm more so putting that on myself because I didn't take it as seriously as I should have.
Right.
But as far as my college experience, if there's one thing that I wish I would have done, it was meet more people.
Right.
And I feel like I met a decent amount of people, but I met more people at Angelina College in my 2 years that I was there playing baseball in a small community college than I did at A&M with tons of people. And I think because I had already, two things. One, we already had a pretty good core group of friends, and so there wasn't much need. And then two, like, I guess I didn't, at that point, I don't know what happened to me during my college years, but I was just much more like, I'm just going to like hang out at the house, which is not me. It was not me in high school and it's not me now.
No.
But during college, it was just
now it's FOMO. I want to,
yeah.
What are y'all doing? It's Wednesday afternoon.
Yeah, for sure. I know. There's very much, there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
So, but I loved college. And I do think the longer we're out, the more fonder those years are. Just because now you have responsibilities, and therefore back then you didn't have to worry about how the bills were going to get paid. I didn't. Fortunately, luckily for me, thank you to my parents because they did a lot in the way of that. I did have to work, but it was not a job that I really depended on to eat. So in a way, like that's a pretty cush deal to be able to go to school and not have to worry about much besides getting your grades and graduating.
Right. And I think it was there was a task, and of course now it's 16 years ago. 14 graduated, but so my task was to get out of there to graduate, and so whenever I think back, I'm like, okay, well, what did you do? I remember the library, the actual library, not the bar. And then I remember the bar, which I worked at the library.
Yeah.
And then I just remember working at the apartment complex. We were maintenance guys and leasing agents, and then some football games, and that's really all I remember because I knew that I was trying to get out and graduate, and I had this vision in my head that I'm going to graduate, I'm going to get married, and then I'm going to live life.
Yeah,
and if now that I'm here, and I think back of what that college kid was thinking, that dude was so wrong.
Didn't know anything.
He didn't know anything.
I thought, what did you think about whenever you were going to school or whenever you were about to graduate? I had nothing lined up, zero. Did you have something lined up?
So, and we'll get into this more probably, but the whole focus on what we're going through with the college, with the student loan debacle right now is that I go back and I look at how my life was, like you just said, and so what was the game plan? Well, I now know that my major was history and communications, but it was a history major. And I asked my mom, I was like, why'd you let me be a history major?
Yeah.
She was like, well, you were dead set on it. I was like, I didn't know what I was doing. I knew that my sophomore year I had to pick English or history, and then I could transfer out of it, and I just finished it.
Yeah.
And so you do all this hard work for a degree, which now I'm an Aggie. No one asked me if I'm a history major.
Right.
I'm just an Aggie.
Yeah.
And so I can lie and say whatever. I'm in construction. I probably know what I'm talking about.
Right. Yeah, sure.
But that's the thing. So, the kids now, whenever they're going through, I know that they had the same, they have no clue what they're wanting to do. And we do interviews all the time for the Dallas A&M Club for these scholarships. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm going to be an engineer. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Well, why?
Right.
I don't know. My dad was.
Right.
That's a great thing to strive for.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, I remember literally I had an internship that it wasn't in DC, but that's where it finished up. I did a little bit of traveling with the State Department, and they brought over a bunch of students from different countries to see what sports were like in the United States. And so we flew around to different places, and we finished up in DC. And I had already graduated a week earlier, and I'm flying home, and I have this journal entry somewhere writing about, I don't know what the heck I'm about to do. I mean, I literally have
and
no
you're
clue.
supposed to.
Yeah, well, in your mind,
Right.
like I've changed from, you're supposed to have it figured out, to now I think in your 20s, you're supposed to do whatever
Right.
you want to do and see if you can make it work. Because
Right.
I feel like once you start to hit really 40 or married, I mean, it's gonna differ for some people,
Right.
but I think your first 17 years after college, let's say you graduate at 23, your first 20 years
Right.
after college, dude, like try and do whatever.
It's just like
you
bumper cars, man.
want
You're going to hit
do.
the rail,
Yeah.
the rail, and get
There's
straightened
almost
out.
nobody anymore. It's not like it's 1970, 80, 90, or 1970 or 80, where you start a job and 40 years later you're
there.
working that same job or at that same company. You know, I worked my way up from here to,
Right.
now I'm president. I don't think that happens much anymore. Maybe it does a little bit, but honestly,
But-
it's now.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was like back then, but I know that now there's so much opportunity out there that you just need to find your way
Right.
and try different things.
And you don't know you're finding your way.
Right.
Life will let you
Yeah.
know that you're finding your way.
Well, true, but you need, like, if there's one thing Sloan, I want to preach to Sloan, which is my child, it will be like just try new things constantly, right? Who would have known that 10 years ago when Joe Rogan started podcasting that he was going to get paid $100 million or more
Right.
by Spotify just to talk into a microphone?
Yep.
Like that wasn't a thing.
Right.
Right. And so what's cool about that though is he started when I think he's like 52 now or something. He started when he's 42.
Right. Yeah.
So like, it's crazy like how the world can change in 10 years and the doors that can open up. And so I don't know, from a college experience, I loved going at college, but I don't know if it's the end all be all. I think unless you're going to be a doctor,
Right.
or
And
something
that's
like that.
doctor, engineer,
Yeah.
Law or something like that.
Yeah.
Then everybody else kind of graduate and
Yeah, but I am a little bit envious of the guy that you interview that says I want to be a lawyer,
right.
and he really wants to be a lawyer, and he goes to school and then goes to law school,
And then
he's a
and
lawyer.
then he's a lawyer.
Yeah, and then he loves being a lawyer
Right.
because that's not how I figured things out.
Yep.
Right.
And that's how most people don't.
Yeah. So getting into what you kind of do now, just like we were talking about in a way, when people are in high school and college, a lot of times they don't think, oh, I want to be in construction, or they don't think I want to be a real estate agent, right? That's just not, I think some people want to be in real estate.
They want to
some
be in
people-
real estate.
Yeah. Some people, yeah. And some people are like, yeah, I want to be in construction, right?
Right.
I think both are kind of similar.
Right.
What made you choose construction? How'd you get in construction? How'd you end up there?
So how did I end up in construction was I sold I was in the insurance industry for 6 years. I graduated with this awesome degree that I figured everybody in the world is going to look at me and be like, oh my God, that guy's so smart.
Yeah.
And then I come home and my mom was like, so do you want to work with me at the insurance agency? You can write certificates of insurance and get paid $27,000 a year. And I was like, well, I don't have any
That's
other
better
offers.
Than zero.
Yeah.
Better than zero.
Yeah. So I started in insurance, worked for Gallagher for 3 years, worked for Upshaw Insurance as a producer and agent for 3 years. And how I got in construction was my biggest customer, which is a very small customer at the time, was Vanguard Electrical. And the owner approached me and he said, hey, man, I need somebody I can trust. We're starting this big project out at DFW Airport. And I told him, I said, man, I don't even know how to change a ceiling fan. There's no way I need to be in electrical.
Yeah.
Plus, I was a mama's boy growing up,
Yeah.
and me and my dad didn't do a lot of construction ever.
Yeah.
So I was never, me being around men in the construction industry felt so weird to me.
Yeah.
And I was, because I was
How old are you at this time? So you were in it 6 years. So 30, 28?
28.
Yeah. 30.
Yeah, so it was 2012, so
Yeah. So 28.
So 28, you look at a 28-year-old guy and you're like, oh, he's a man. He knows what he's doing. Still, you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
So I was like, you know what? It's better than what I was doing. I haven't broken the $40,000 barrier yet. At this time,
Yeah.
it felt like I watched it's weird. I watched the old commercials and you remember the ladders, jobs for over 100,000. I was like, oh my. how am I ever going to get there? I'm
Yeah,
not even
right.
halfway there yet.
Right.
So I start working there. We get this big project for Vanguard, and I'm an assistant PM project manager, and I learn everything I can. Randy Morse, who's my mentor, he took me under his wing, and he showed me everything. He showed me how to estimate. He showed me how to manage projects. And so I go from, the stigma about construction is that, all those construction guys, you see them on the road, you see them building buildings, you have a certain thought about construction until you get into it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you realize those dudes are working night and day as hard as they can. It's 102 outside. They're there. And I realized that I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
It really did take me some getting used to being around, as weird as it sounds, more guys. Because I was always around working with women and everything. So that was new to me, and giving direction to guys as a 28-year-old guy, 29-year-old guy, and telling this dude's been doing it for 20 years how to do it.
Right.
Now, I'm not talking about technical installation, but hey, maybe we should do it this way or that
where
way.
to be and where to be at what time.
Yep.
And
Hey, you're late. Mm-hmm. I remember one of the biggest things that helped me advance at Vanguard was I had to lay somebody off, and it was a my call type of thing, and I was just an assistant. And one of the head superintendents came in, and he started mouthing off about the owner. And I was like, dude, you can't do that.
Yeah.
And this dude knows everything, and I know nothing.
Yeah.
But I know that if I need to, I have the right to do that. Mm-hmm. And so I did it. And I cut him, and he looked at me like, "What are you doing?" Yeah. And so from there, I learned more about construction, and then it took off from there.
Yeah. So that's what 28, 36 now. Mm-hmm. About to be 37.
About to be 36.
About to be
next month.
Yeah, 36. All right. Been there for 6 months. Not too bad.
Yep.
It's all good.
Yep.
So you've been doing it for 8 years now, or almost 8 years. Learned a lot, like you said. What are some getting into the homeowner side of things, which is going to be the main audience that listens to this. What are some just generic tips for, and we'll dive into a few as far as like the panel box, GFIs and stuff like that. Right. But I have an inspection every house that's purchased. Every house that's purchased, if it's pre-owned, even a lot of the new ones have some sort of electrical things that might have been done backwards, reverse polarity, or whatever that is. Like, they all have something. What are some tips to make sure that like people are staying safe? Because safety, as far as the inspection report goes, is my main focus. But then a lot of times it shifts to, okay, safety in what aspect? Electrical is a huge one, right? Like, because people don't like to work on electricity because it makes them nervous. Mm-hmm. Two, it can be very, very, very dangerous to work with if you don't know what you're doing. So what are some things to, one, keep people safe, and two, make sure that things are kind of in order at the house?
So a good summary of electrical and electricity is that it's lightning.
Yeah, right.
That's what it is. And so a lot of times people will say, oh, houses only have 120 volt, which is low voltage in the industry. It's not that bad if you get hit, if you get lit up. But it is. And
can 120 kill you?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it certainly can. Especially, and my uncle died from a 120 circuit. He was getting out of a lake, or he was in a lake house. Mm-hmm. He fell in. Of course, his body's in the water, and he reached up and grabbed a 120 circuit and he died from it. Yeah. Wow. So I was 20 years ago, but I mean it's an important thing, and not just being in the water portion of it, but you can get trapped, and that's why I will never go in my attic, and I know electrical, because open junction boxes, you put your hand in there and you're getting lit, right? And most people you can just jerk back, but let's say you can't. Right. You go up there, hey, I'm just going to check this real quick, and you never come back because you got stuck up there. You landed in and you couldn't get out. Right. I mean, it's a very dangerous thing. So even my friends do DIY. Right, of course. And then every now and then, or about half the time, hey, man, this is arcing. Yeah, right. Is it supposed to be fizzing? Yeah. What should I do? I was like, you call an electrician, because I'm not going to go over there and help you either, because I'm not a registered electrician.
Right.
So the main thing that people need to look for, though, it's a broad range. Whenever you're looking at a house to buy, you saw this in my last round of houses, or the last house that we bought it's the opposite of what I had because we have a big attic. If you want to add electrical, it's easy to do with a lot of room up there.
Right.
Right here, try to put an outlet in.
Yeah.
It was over in the corner of your house. You couldn't. So
Right.
for looking at houses for safety reasons, always look at future electricals. You're never going to have enough electrical. If you have,
Right.
a certain switch in here, you're going to want to put LED lights, and then you may want to put a fan, and then you may want a projector screen.
Yeah.
So having the future build out of the house in certain rooms, but safety wise, electrical panel, Federal Pacific panels.
Yeah. Let's talk about that real quick.
Everybody's mentioned. So
Yeah. Let me give a little bit of background on
Okay.
Federal Pacific. So if I'm selling a house anywhere, I think it's 1974, you might know. I don't
I think
know.
it's 78, but
78. So 1978, there was a thing called the Federal Pacific Panel Box. Basically, it's an older panel box that is known to start fires.
Mm-hmm.
And so every inspection, Trek mandates if you have a Federal Pacific panel box that it's called out. And there's one other, I can't remember the name of it.
there was I think it was a sister company or something like that. They had the same.
Yeah, same issues.
Yep, same issue.
So we've got it's from a safety standpoint. That's something that I always try and work through. Right now, it's not always feasible to get the seller to pay for that, especially in the market that we're in right now, where it's a hot market. And then
Take it or leave it.
Then the next person will come and buy the house without getting that replaced or
Yep.
credit for it. But it is something that we try and work towards, and definitely something that most real estate agents, if you know what you're doing, know that that's going to be called out.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about them. Hopefully, I didn't cover too much.
No,
but
that's a good summary. FP panels or Federal Pacific panels. It's funny because in commercial, they're in 70% of buildings.
really,
They're not. It's not an issue. In fact, I buy equipment all the time that's transformers or whatever that's Federal Pacific, and it's because it's a different application commercial wise than residential, so it's completely fine. For houses though, they want to get them out. Most of them are 40 years old, 30 years old,
Yeah.
and if they're in a house, that means that person's been in there for 30 years because they haven't changed it out. If
Yeah.
it was just sold 5 years ago, it's probably been changed.
right?
So I don't know the actual litigation or what happened whenever they decided to outlaw them in houses, or in residential application, but they did, and so most time you need that switched out. If you have one in there, the panels probably needs to be replaced, but if it's in there, it's probably because it's old, and it hasn't been checked. And anything with electrical is the same as any running component, like a motor or anything like that. If it hasn't been checked, like your car, you need it to be checked.
Yeah, for sure. But okay, so I understand how you can check the panel,
Right.
the panel box, right?
Right.
And the Federal Pacific panel box is definitely one that needs to be
Yes.
one checked and
Yep.
two changed out.
Yep.
I mean, there's no question about that. As
Right.
for, you ask almost anybody
Yes.
in real estate, any
Yes.
inspector, anybody in electrical,
Change it out.
And that's tricky for some homeowners. Just to go on a little bit of a on tangent, some people will look at that, because I've heard it before, and say Federal Pacific panel box, and I'll say, it's a big deal because they've been known to start fires, yada yada yada. They'll say, well, it's been here for 40 years.
Right.
What's the
Hadn't
big-
started a fire.
hadn't
Yeah.
started a fire yet.
Doesn't.
And so, and okay, that is very true, and I
Right.
get that. And they're still in quite a few houses, because I come across them quite a bit. But there was a fire literally 4 streets over the other day, right next to Drew Allen's parents' house, and like,
Right over here.
yeah,
Was that? I was driving by. I saw it.
yeah, so it was just
True
south of
Roads.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I don't know if that was started by the panel box, but I mean, fires do happen,
Yep.
I guess. And a lot of times they're started by lint, and then they're started by the electrical.
Yep.
And so Federal Pacific being known for that, like if you have kids or your wife, like, do you really want to
Right.
gamble?
Just change it
Right.
out. Yeah.
Now, the thing about that is depending on where it's located, it could be
That's
a
the
pretty
issue.
decent expense.
Yeah.
Right.
If you get, because most times they'll ask that it's on an exterior wall.
Yep.
If it's in an interior closet and there's no access to it, then it needs to be moved, and that's where the expense is, because you got to take all those circuits
Yep.
move them, extend them over.
Right.
But
Luckily, ours was in the closet. Now, we didn't have it changed out, but the previous owner did. And essentially, he just flipped it to the outside.
right.
Right.
That's
And
it,
so,
yep.
and I feel like that's the norm
Right.
now. Right. I don't know when is it not on an exterior wall? Are there times where it's in a closet? Because a lot of times those are in a closet in the master bedroom. And so are there times where it's on or in an interior closet that,
Yeah, at my Pittman house. Remember, it was it was in
Yeah.
the interior closet. There's only one interior closet in the
Yeah.
1,200 square foot
yeah,
house.
sure. Sure.
But yeah, it was on an interior closet, and they made me move it to the outside.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And it wasn't an FP panel or nothing. It was
Right.
just they wanted it on an exterior wall.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's a code. But it's got to be, if it's on at the current house, it's on an exterior wall on the inside of it.
Yeah, right.
So
Right.
they just don't want from the meter to, they don't like big wires. Anytime service comes in, it's either 100, 200 amps.
Yeah.
It hits a meter and then it goes to the panel. Well, they don't want 200 amps of power going 100 feet across your house. They
Gotcha.
want it right next to it.
Close, yeah.
Yep.
Can you give a range as far as like what that would cost? Like,
If you're just changing the panel out,
yeah, like you don't have to move it or anything
right,
like that.
it just
like
changes the panel.
Change the panel from FP to a new one.
$3,000 to $4,000.
Yeah,
something like that.
And that's not moving it, right?
That's not moving. That's just changing it out, taking all the circuits and re-putting it back in.
Yeah,
Typically, it's 2 days worth of work. Panels are $300-$400.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the range that you're looking at. If you have to move them, depending on how far to the exterior wall you have to go, that can be $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, depending on how far you got to move the circuits.
How do you check, or can you check, like your outlets, right? Like, so I've got a couple here that they've got burn marks on the outside of them, right? Yeah. How can you check to see? I mean, obviously those need to be changed out, right? There's no doubt about that. But how can you see if they're, one, functioning, two, if they're bad, like, or let's say you don't have burn marks on them, they're just, a plug here.
Right.
Can you check them without, like, can I check them, or do you need a licensed electrician?
You need an electrician. Yeah. And this isn't a, hey, use the official guy, but you will need to give you the electrical 101 in 10 seconds. Power comes in, your panel is there, your breakers are there to trip if something catches fire or sets it off downline.
Yeah.
Right. So your receptacles are downline from that. So if they're burned and it didn't cause your breaker to trip, you got an issue.
Right, sure. But do you have an issue with the plug, or you have an issue with the wire along the way?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Well, because three things happen with electrical: the receptacle, the wiring, or the breaker.
Right.
Loose connection at any one of those points can mess everything up. So,
Yeah.
If you have burn marks, it means your breakers, your panel's not doing its job.
Yeah.
Wire size has something to do with it, but anytime that a outlet or something is charred or fizzing, or if you hear anything from it, kill the breaker and call an electrician. You can't check it yourself.
If
you can,
which is
you
interesting that you say that, because there are times, I haven't heard it here at my current house, but at my other place, and I guess I didn't know this until just now. It's a thing, but like if you hear your outlet,
right,
like that
or
means
your switch or your light,
your switch, something is,
you turn it on and it goes.
yeah,
kind of sounds like white
What about
noise.
like on dimmers? Because on dimmers I hear that a lot. I feel like.
Yeah, that same thing. It's all the dimmer is, you got 120 coming into it, and it derates at how much you want your lights on. So it'll either give all the voltage down, or if it's like a low voltage dimmer, but it just rates it. So that's why the lights go down. Less voltage, less light.
So it gives it 80%.
Yeah. So but at the center of contact is the only thing that matters. So if it's fizzing, it's because that contact is loose.
Gotcha. Wow, good to know. All right, GFIs.
I'll stick around after and
Yeah, well, you just said you weren't licensed to do it.
No.
So.
I'll have the guys come
Yeah,
over.
it sounds good. Perfect. So GFIs, AFCI, which I don't know what AFCI is.
Arc fault circuit.
Okay, arc
interrupter.
fault. Yeah, okay, gotcha. Dude, I see them called out on every inspection almost. Every pre-owned home, basically,
Yep.
unless it was built in like 2015 or later.
Yep.
I see them being called out.
Right.
My last house, I never changed them out. Are
Right.
they important?
They are important. So what a ground fault, without getting into theory, what a receptacle does is it takes power and lets you power whatever. You're supposed to have GFI within 3 feet of any water source. I'm pretty sure it's 3 feet. Don't book me on this. But within
if it's close to water,
if it's close to water, right?
Source,
and what that is that it trips itself. It's got its own breaker in it.
Yeah.
So if your this outlet, if you were to burn that, your breaker should go off in the panel, but it might not. A GFI is basically integral, so it'll trip itself if it has any type of fault or anything like that. So that's what it's for. And yes, you do need that.
I think that we have something we need to take care of here too.
And it because it kills itself.
Yeah.
Whenever, let's say whatever you in the movies, whenever you have the hair dryer and she drops in the shower, GFI will trip itself,
right,
and not depend on the panel 100 feet away to do it,
right,
in order not to kill somebody.
I mean, aren't you still like toast if you drop a?
No,
I mean, if you got it, okay, so you got a GFI, and you're blow drying your hair in the tub for whatever reason, and you drop the hair dryer.
Multitask.
Yeah. Well, no. Let's just say your wife's mad at you. She throws the toaster in the tub.
The way it's designed, it's supposed to trip
and not
just
shock
like
the water. Gotcha. Yep. Okay. Good.
I mean, because electricity goes to ground. As weird as it sounds, if like these circuits in here, if they're not grounded, and you're in water, well, you're the ground, so it's going to go to you and your toast.
Yeah,
but
right.
GFI, ground fault circuit interrupter,
Yeah.
it's supposed to kill that, so it doesn't go through your body, and in fact kills it at the source. So
which makes complete sense.
yeah. So AFCIs are mainly in new homes. In fact, I think they're only in new homes, and I don't know new home code, but they're supposed to be in. I think, again, don't bug me on this, but I think arc fault is supposed to be in every new outlet.
Gotcha.
In a new home.
Gotcha.
But that could, depending on your municipality.
Well, I was going to say there's
codes.
different from city to city for sure.
Right.
All right, so let's talk because we've talked mostly electricity, but let's talk about contracting in general. Good, bad contractors. When you are, let's say you're looking for a contractor yourself, right?
Which I do.
Yeah, sure.
All the time.
What are some things that you want your contractor to know, or like what? Ooh. Because there's a couple things, like, because I've come in contact with a ton of contractors. Some are terrible, some are great. The ones that are terrible in my mind are the ones that don't show up, right? So that's
right.
And then 2, overcharge for something very simple.
Right.
But that could be some gray area too, because it might be simple to them, like plumbing comes to mind, or electrical. It could be simple to them, but it's not simple to me, right? And so, it's not just a, hey, this took 15 minutes. It's a, hey, there's some danger attached to this, and so you're kind of paying for that as well, or some risk.
Right.
But good or bad, or good, bad in contractors, what are some traits?
Things to look for. So
yeah, because there's sometimes it can be too late. You hire a contractor and then they do crappy work, and you're like,
so understand that anytime you're using a contractor, you're asking them to do something you don't know how to do, or you don't want to do.
Right.
So either one. Contractors, it's a term that I got to get a contractor to do this. Well, you're contracting somebody to do a short-term job that you don't know how to do, whether it's build a house or change out your outlet. So don't ever be offended because you ask somebody to do something, you set the amount, and then they did it in 6 minutes. Because they know what they're doing. It would take me and you all day to change these can lights out.
Right.
It would take an actual technician, 45 minutes.
You're right.
So, and you're paying a fee for somebody to do that. Just like I pay a contractor to clean my house. It's not that I can't do it, I just really don't want to.
Yeah,
and I have a husky. Right. So, it's time saved, right? So the main thing that you need to do whenever you're selecting anybody to do anything in your house is they have to have the heart of a teacher.
Yeah.
So if you are talking to somebody and they talk down to you, they make you seem like you're dumb because you're talking about something that that they know you're supposed to know it.
Right.
Don't choose them. I don't care if they're the cheapest, whatever.
Cheapest, best value.
Yeah. So heart of a teacher means they're going to teach you what's happening and what you need to look for going forward. And I've had a wide range of contractors working in my house and subcontractors. And I know guys, just by talking to their personality, if they care about the job or if they're just getting a check.
Right.
So heart of a teacher, and then have you learned something from talking to them? And that's not just contractors, that's real estate agents,
Yep.
mortgage brokers, whatever it is. If they tell you what's going to happen, walk you through it, and tell you why, why the cost is different than using this other guy, then that's what you're looking for. So an example to me, what I do with every job, I did this with somebody the other day. They said, "Well, I don't have the budget for that."
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like buying a car, right? I want a Cadillac.
Yeah.
I only got like $7,000. Well, you ain't buying that Cadillac, right? And your job may be different. So somebody came up and they said, "Hey, we need to clear all this stuff out of a house."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "That's probably gonna be." He was like, "I only want to spend $500." I was like, "Well, you're only gonna get 60% of your stuff cleared out,
Right?
Because guys cost this, overhead is this, and it's gonna take some time. And if you're transparent with them and say, hey, it's going to take this much time. My guys get paid this, and I'm making this, and it's going to take this long," then they understand why it's going to cost it. And they may not want the job, they may change the scope of the work. So whenever you're looking for a contractor, really have them teach you. I had somebody when we bought the house, we do electrical, and it was a time clock on the pool.
Yeah.
We do time clocks.
Yeah.
I have 80 of them in our shop.
Yeah.
But because it was tied to a pool, I didn't think, oh, we could have done this.
Yeah. Right.
And so it was one of the line items on our deal. It's $400.
Yeah.
I could have my guy do it for 7 minutes.
Yeah.
And it cost $37.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I paid the guy to do it because there's and he did it in 7 minutes, and I wasn't mad. Hey, I signed up for you to pay for it.
Right.
That's your job to provide the service.
Yeah.
You did it, and
Right. But then that speaks to, in a way, like some education as well.
Yep.
Like once have them educate you. And then we have so many resources now that you can educate yourself in a way. And that's one thing that I recommend is like, well, I recommend, or I talk a lot about to Angela, or whoever, it's YouTube and the internet are able to teach you a lot of different things. And so if you have one job that you're looking for, maybe it's a time clock, and you're like, what it takes to change a time clock for your pool. Okay, maybe you can YouTube it and figure it out.
Right.
And now, whether that's recommended or not, I don't know, because you have to be careful. But like to your point, yes, you signed up for it, you paid for it, and that's what happened. So you're not mad at him for providing that service, but like there are things that if you're educated, you can, and you have that budget, then you can maybe eliminate.
And understand your scope of work is a term we use in construction, but understand your scope of work that it really may need to change. Like just because you have $400 and you want these can lights done doesn't mean that you're going to get these can lights done for $400.
Right.
So you may need to change. You may need to say, okay, we're going to do something now, something later. Or, and to get multiple bids, and contractors hate, hold on, I got to ask this other guy for a price. I mean, they hate it.
Right.
At the same time, you're doing your due diligence, and if a contractor has an issue with waiting on another bid, that's not your contractor. That's not who you want to use, because if someone has an issue with you making sure you're getting good value, then you don't want them doing your job anyways.
I mean, I couldn't agree with that more, right? Like, and I, of course, like you want the work, right? You want the work. And when you go out to a job and they say, yeah, okay, cool, I'm using you, then that's awesome. Right?
Sometimes people don't want the work. Sometimes they will price it. And that's why you want to ask multiple people, because some guys are like, dude, I'm slammed. Yeah. I can do it, but I'm going to mark it up.
Right.
You're not going to want to hire me anyways. But if you're only asking one guy.
So why go out to the job? Right? Like if there's a, let's say in my world, like a listing or a buyer, because it probably would happen more for a buyer than it would for a seller. But if there's a buyer that has $100,000 budget and a $500,000 taste, like there's a really good chance that that's going to be so much time that I'm not going to want to do that. But I'm going to tell them like, hey, I'm not going to do it.
And that heart of a teacher, find somebody who doesn't want to do it. I mean,
Right.
that will tell you, hey man.
But why would they want to waste their time and go out there?
Well, so for example, MV Michael Vaughn, me and him talked yesterday, and so everybody didn't go look at a job, but he was like, hey man, we do these jobs. We have to have controller, needs a circuit, and random houses and whatever. How, is that something you're looking at? I was like, yes. And I will tell you, that's why, Michael, if you're watching this, you verify this.
I was with Michael this morning, so
Oh.
I told him that you were going to be on here.
Okay. So I told him, I said, hey, so here's your budget number for this standard job. But I said, but if it's a job that doesn't make sense and I know we're going to be high, I'm going to tell you, just find somebody else to do it. Find a local guy to do it.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to go and, you're going to put a line item of $1,000 for a certain job and it's $400. Get somebody else that can do it for $400. I just don't want to drive to Weatherford today.
Yeah, right.
Or whatever.
Right,
So,
right. It's real interesting because it's not out yet, but the Lucas Boyd podcast will be out soon. And he basically said the similar thing as far as insurance is concerned. He said, I'm not going to be like one of the first things he asked his potential client is, hey, is this a cost decision?
Right.
Like, am I going to be like judged solely on cost, or is my service going to be involved in it as well?
Right.
And he said, because if it's purely cost, then I'm probably not going to be
Right.
the best one for you, right? And so he says that up front, and so I think it's
He said that to me with all my policies I got with
Yeah,
him.
there you go. So,
And it was about service. Hey, man, some of this stuff, I don't know what I'm doing. I was in the insurance industry for 6 years, and I want to make sure my butt's covered
right.
on these policies, and I understand them.
Yeah.
And so that's why I went with them, because he educated me.
Yeah, for
He
sure.
literally sat down with my little $800 shorter porter policy, and he was like, so you want this, you don't need this.
Right.
Hey, thank you. I know you just lost money on this transaction by
Yeah.
having to talk to me.
Yeah, but I think that's super cool for people in general,
Yep.
not just Lucas, but
Yep.
like for you, for anybody to help educate,
Yep.
your potential clients. So, all right. So to tie up the homeowner side of things, is there anything else that you can think of that's like, hey, and if there's no, then like, cool, but that you can think of that could be like, oh, we didn't mention this earlier.
Really, just home buying in general, not just electrical, but your agent, if you're working with the Gingrich Group or whoever it is,
yeah.
But I mean, same thing. Don't ever, if you're ever in doubt, don't. And right now in this industry, we just bought a house last year, or in this market rather. Everyone gets so like you can just feel your adrenaline start going.
Yeah.
Like we would look at Realtor.com and the stuff that you would send us daily, and it was just like, is there going to be another house on Thursday that comes up? And you get so built up, and you can make the worst decision in your life.
Yeah.
By doing something you're not sure of. So whenever in doubt, don't. Ask, have your agent educate you, which John does an amazing job of, and then feel comfortable and you can pull the trigger.
Awesome. All right, so I want to transfer into the business side of things.
Okay.
Shorter Porter.
And Property Solutions.
And Property Solutions. What does Porter mean, by the way? Help me out with that. Help. Actually, you've told me, but
So
tell the people like what that
Porter,
actually means.
most people think of Porter as you go to the hotel, not the hotels I stay at, nice hotels, and a porter is someone who takes your bags.
Transport
That
something.
is not what we do
Okay.
at all. Do not ask me to take your stuff anywhere.
Yeah.
Shorter Porter is and Property Solutions we're a property maintenance company, primarily commercial, but also for residential. Virtually, we're a labor source.
Okay.
So you need anything done that's not a trade, we can do. Painting, bulk trash removal, tenant prep, tenant move out.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, that's happening a lot lately, where
Yeah.
tenants, they're closing down their doors, and so we're removing that. But a porter service is a property maintenance guy,
Right.
for lack of a better term. So we have 12 commercial properties right now that we go through or daily or weekly, and trash detail, bulk trash pickup, graffiti removal, power washing, light inspections, and that's basically porter,
Right.
basically property maintenance.
Yeah. So real quick, because you said I'm enamored by what's going on right now, as everybody else is, and I have a theory that not that I want to have it happen, but that I think that it's going to. I think that commercial.
I know where you're going.
I think that commercial real estate. I don't want it to be in trouble, but I think that it is. You mentioned that you have tenants that you're moving out.
Yep.
How many is not how many, but you see it often. You're more in that commercial side of things than I am, and so do you think that there's going to be some sort of issue from a commercial leasing standpoint?
So I 100% do. In fact, with Gold Star, whenever we're all working from home. We don't have a shop.
Right.
We're an electrical contractor without a shop. Now, there are shops at houses and storage units, but what electrical contractor doesn't have a brick and mortar? Where do you park your vans? Where do you check? In COVID, we were like, one, it's not a necessity, and two, we're not going to do it ever moving forward because you don't need to. Right now, we're working from our homes, and it's changing the way people do business. So in the commercial aspect, contractors are doing it. If you're a real estate agency, why do you need a storefront?
Right.
No one comes to your office.
Right.
You don't have paper.
Right.
You don't you need a table right here to go do a deal.
Right.
And so you're seeing that with white collar companies as well as blue collar companies that are, do we really need an extra $1,000, $2,000, $10,000 rental bill when we're doing just as good without it? And so the companies that are folding now, one is a couple of restaurants, which is obviously, but others are companies that they didn't close. They just didn't need it anymore. I think eventually it's going to get to distribution, manufacturing, and what else?
I mean, how does manufacturing survive if they're not from?
Right.
Like,
I mean, so
if they
that's
don't
what I'm
have
saying.
a plant.
They have to manufacturing, but other people don't. I mean, you have America's built on small business, which is 500 and down. I think it's 78% of businesses in America are 500 and down. So all those companies, if you're an engineering firm, do you really need to go to an office, or is it okay? Let's just make sure that Joe's actually working and not playing golf Wednesday morning.
Yeah, I love that because the opinions are across the board on this, though. I feel like because I feel like it's mostly because of the owners in a way, like they want a little bit more. They want to make sure that their employees are doing what they're supposed to be doing and not playing golf on a Wednesday morning. But they still, even some other people they like to go to the office also, and so they're hoping
to get out of the house with babies and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it does make a challenge whenever, especially when the schools are closed down. My goodness, to have no school going on and you're trying to be productive. I mean, that's a challenge.
Right. But I will say that everything doesn't happen until probably gonna need to cut this. Everything is dumb until it's not. But everything is with businesses. It's okay. So we're going to do this and then once somebody shows that you can do something else, then you're gonna then that's the new fad, right? And
follow the leader.
Follow the leader. And so I'm trying to think of an example of what some companies have done, and now everyone's doing it. I'm trying to think of an example if you have one.
Well, I can just say from a sports standpoint, right? The spread offense. You'll never be able to win running the spread offense, right? You'll never be able to win with Mike Leach's offense, right? It's not going to work. And now everybody runs the spread offense once one person was successful about it. And so you could translate that to business, right? I mean,
So just an example I thought of was, okay, we have friends. One of our best friends, he's a foodie. They will go out to eat every day of the week. What did restaurants do the last 2 months, 3 months? They delivered, and they figured out a way to make it.
Yeah.
And you know what happens? They had to adjust, but they adjusted. And so now you're not going to have 100% occupancy in restaurants probably for the next 6 months.
Right.
At, Friday nights, Father's Day, yeah. But you're not going to have a full house at any restaurant because what's the difference? I can stay at home and stay safe, or I'm going to go to this restaurant just because. Well, no, I'm not going to go to the restaurant. I'll go pick it up and I'll heat it up at the house.
Right.
So now that Uber Eats or Uber, in general is, okay, well, they're making a killing.
Yeah.
But in order to, 3-5 years ago, you're lazy if you get Uber Eats. What's wrong with you? Go out to eat. Go get your food, weirdo.
Right. Yeah.
But now it's completely opposite. So,
That's the thing.
but businesses will change and they will adapt. And some of the greatest businesses, Amazon, is that, I don't know, number one business, or Apple? Amazon. You are lazy if you don't go to the store.
Yeah.
What do you mean you're and then we even had best friends that, there's, I said Jess and Cole. Like, Cole used to complain all the time that there's Amazon gifts coming.
Yeah.
Now, I have an Amazon gift every day at my house because I can go buy baby shoes in 2 seconds.
Two things. I just got a notification literally while you were talking about Amazon saying your Amazon order has shipped.
It's on its way.
And then two, I love that you call it gifts, even though it's baby shoes. It's like, that's how you make you think. You get to open a present.
You get to open a gift. But 5 years ago, Amazon was completely different than it is now. Now, I need toilet paper. Where do I go? Well, I'll just get in line at Amazon because I don't want to drive to Target, to Walmart, to whatever to find toilet paper.
Right.
Just wait for it to show up.
It's wild differences. Anyways, all right. So let's get back on track as far as your business is concerned. No, it's all good. I don't know how we got there, but it was cool. So, what was the decision like to actually go out on your own? Because again, it's not whenever you leave a job that pays you whatever you were being paid before. And you have insurance, you have whatever perks you have, retirement from that job. All of that goes away whenever you say, I'm going to start my own company. Mm-hmm. And you walk out that door for the last time and you realize on Monday that you've got to bring in, whatever you have, a month, 2 months, a year's worth of money built up, saved up. But you have to start your business and you have to feed your family with that money. Mm-hmm. What's it like mentally to make that decision and then to say, all right, I can do this?
So when I left Vanguard, I had been there for 7 years.
Yeah. I
got an increase every year.
Yeah.
So, and we got a bonus almost every single year. Vanguard's a great company, great people to work with, good Christian company. Great ownership and everything. And I knew that, this house that I just bought, or this college fund that I'm about to have to start, or this paycheck, it's based on one person, and it ain't me, or it's based on one job, and it's not a job I'm in charge of. If something happens to the company, or somebody changes their mind, all right, well, go find something else. Sorry. And as much as you think that the owner of your company, wherever you work, is looking out for you, they are, more than likely. But the company's first. Yeah. And their family's first. Right. And so that hit my heart so hard right after we bought that house. And, we did everything right. We saved up money. We had a good emergency fund. We had no debt. We had all this stuff. So even if I lost my job, I would have been okay. Yeah. But every single day, I was like, I could lose this job, and then what am I going to do? So instead of just waiting for something to happen, I was proactive, and I started looking around, and I saw all my best friends had their companies, or were looking to start a company. I was like, oh, what would that look like for me? Mm-hmm. What would I do? I had a customer base that I did not want to compete with my company that I was working for, but what other service could I do to add to what they need? Yep. And that's where Short Reporter came in. It's basically a maintenance company, doesn't do electrical. Right. So the scary part was once I got the boat close enough to the dock, I was making enough for Short Reporter. I didn't need to continue working at where I was working, was making the jump. Yeah. And you got to pray,
Yeah.
and you got to ask God, and He will tell you. And if He doesn't tell you, that means you ain't ready yet.
Yeah. Well, what I think about a lot of times, and so I was teaching and selling real estate for people that don't know, so I was doing both. Mm-hmm. And whenever I made that decision to stop teaching and take the safety net away, like my thought process at that moment was, listen, every successful person lays it all on the line at some point. And I mean, you can be successful and not make a lot of money, like whatever you define success by. Right. But my thought was everybody that has made a decent amount of money has laid it all on the line at some point and said, this is either going to work or not work. Right. And so at that point, I feel like what's amazing about that too is, one, you're empowered, but then two, it's up to you. Yep. Right. And to your point, as far as like Vanguard is concerned, you said they were a great company, but if that great company falls on hard times, if COVID happens, I don't know how it's affected them or not, something out of their control, all of a sudden they need to cut somebody. Like, who's to say that you're not going to be the one cut, right? And so you're the one that makes those decisions at that point. And I feel like if you have your own company, it's something that is difficult but gratifying. And as long as you are putting in the work, I feel like putting in the work and making smart decisions, I feel like well, I'm not going to say I feel like it will work out, because there's things that are out of your control, but you, at least it's all on you. And that's something that is important to me.
So the transition, you went through this too, is where you're starting, don't ever start a company just from like blank. If you have no clue what you're doing. So I guess what I'm saying is,
I don't know if I agree with that.
You were talking about transitioning from being comfortable to doing. So why did I do that? And so I would never tell somebody to quit your job and then think of something to do. Right. Like, I didn't quit and then, all right, I'll start doing this now, because I don't know what the market's like. I don't know what the customers are like. I may, not ever make another dime again. Right. So that's what I meant. That's different entrepreneur stuff than creating your own stuff. I'm talking about from a comfortable job like we both did. Mm-hmm. And then you get to the point of, you got two jobs. You own one and you're working for somebody, and the other one, I kind of like getting paid 2 checks. Yeah,
there's no doubt. Yeah.
Right? I mean, so and I never did anything for Short Reporter during work hours. Right. It was nights and weekends. And that was terrible. Yeah. And, Megan would be like, I don't get it. We're comfortable. How come you have to go and run to Mansfield? Mm-hmm. Well, there's an end goal, and that's where we're trying to get to. So then you decide, okay, I'm not going to do 2 checks anymore. So now let's jump. And so the jump is, man, it's scary. But you also got to know, I trusted in myself. I tested the market. I tested the customer base. I knew that there was a need. And every single dime that you make as an owner, it's yours. Mine is, cost of goods sold. Mm-hmm. And so you're selling $100,000 worth of stuff, minus what it costs, you get. It's not like, all right, I get some, and then here, owner, let me make sure that I pay for your new G-Wagon. Yeah, right. It's yours. So figure out a way to do that is what I had to do, and that's right. I don't have a G-Wagon yet, but someday soon. No, I get that. So are you a goal guy? Like, do you January 1, you're writing, whether it's resolution or whatever you want to call it. No, I'm not a resolution guy. I'm a goal guy. Okay, so when you're a goal guy, once a year you sit down and say, hey, these are my goals for the year, or you write out your 5-year goals, your 10-year goals, or what is it? Are you a SMART goals guy? So speaking of resolutions, and I'm a big Dave Ramsey fan. Yeah. So Dave Ramsey talks about having in your, I think it's 7 subjects that you need to have goals for, not resolutions, but goals. And I don't know them all, which means I don't have goals for all of them. But spiritual goal, monetary goal, financial goal, family goal, friends goal. There's a couple other ones. Those are the ones I mainly do. And so I put goals out there, one that I know I can achieve. I'm not the... You're not such a lofty goal that if you fall short, it's still fine, because 50% of it's great. I'm not going to get to 180 by the end of the summer. Okay. That can be a goal, let's try to get down to 195.
Yeah, sure.
And because that's attainable, right? Now, a lot of times we put so much effort into our goals and the loftiest, pie in the sky deal. You don't ever get to there because you already beat yourself.
Right.
Right.
Well, that's the A in SMART. SMART goals, I believe, is attainable.
Yeah,
Attainable
right.
goals.
Yeah. Make it make it attainable. Put a time limit on it, and define it and write it down. Is what Dave says. So I do that, and I remember this Christmas I wrote it down. It's in my journal that I'll eventually give it a Bowen one day. But it was my goals for this year. One of them was see my friends weekly. Well, that got shot down. that didn't make it.
Yeah.
The other one was see every single family member that I have that's not in the state.
Right.
That one kind of got shut down because no one's traveling right now. So the other ones are on pace. Financial goals are on pace, and I remember writing last year. By the end of the year, start your own business.
Awesome.
And July 1st, I started it.
Yeah. So what does that look like? Do you write them in a journal? That's what you say? You write them in a journal, and then do you review them, or how do
Nope.
you? No.
I mean, I know what it says. I could go back and look at them, but
Right. Well, I'm talking about like, so say it's, January 1, you have a goal by the end of the year to do X. December 31st, December 31st. So you're like, okay, let me review what I wrote down and see if I accomplished it. Yes, no, yes,
But
no.
there's only like 3 or 4.
Right.
It's only, I don't have a laundry list of things because I tell this to Megan all the time. You achieve what you focus on. And one, if you make it attainable,
I love that.
And you focus on it, then you'll hit it. It's like hitting a target. Zig Ziglar, one of the leaders of in the space, he always said you'll if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time. And if you're just going through life and you're just living, and you're not focused on nothing, then you'll hit it. You'll hit nothing.
Right. Well, and I think because I asked several people this, and because I'm not as much of a goal guy. I want to be a goal guy. Right. I want to write down my goals and look at them. But it's kind of like I want to lose weight too, right? Like I want to lose weight, but does it happen very often?
Well, everybody always puts weight out there.
Right. So, I mean, ultimately, like, what are because there's got to be like action steps, like you talked about, like with Dave Ramsey, or some sort of system to where you can follow this and it helps you keep track of your goals, accomplish your goals, that sort of thing. And so it's something that in the back of my mind, I know what I kind of want to accomplish, but is it written down? Is it like in a ledger? Not so much. But I do think that they're very, very, very important because unless you have a plan, well, who said like if you don't have a plan, you're planning to fail? Right. Who's that? I don't know who it was.
One of them.
Yeah, one of them. Maybe it's Zig Ziglar. Who knows?
It may have been. Yeah.
But like ultimately, I feel like it's super important. I just haven't done that from a business standpoint. Now, let me say this: I've written a ton of things down, and whether you want to call them goals or not,
right?
Sure. But one of which that I have in mind is kind of the end game for the Gingrich Group, for Shorter Porter and Property Solutions and Gold Star. Like, is end in mind? Is that something that you started with? Meaning, like, I want to run Shorter Porter until I'm retired, or I want to take Shorter Porter for 5-10 years, sell it, and travel the world type thing?
So, it's a relative question because I think that life goes by so quickly that our goals change from month to month, year to year, decade to decade. Yeah. And just like we talked about the college Josh and what Josh ended up being at 35, that's half my life ago. Well, whenever I was 23 and I was working in the insurance industry, I literally thought that I was going to work for Arthur J. Gallagher for the next 30 years, become a salesman, drive one of those BMWs that those producers were driving, and that was the goal.
Yeah.
And whenever you go from, having the self-awareness to go back and look at yourself, and not to judge other people, but to look at other people and to learn from everything. The greatest thing I learned about being a history major was going back and looking at history.
Yeah.
And so I go back and look at my own history, and I'm like, okay, I thought I knew everything here. I didn't. I thought I knew everything here, and I didn't. So the end goal for Short Reporter, the end goal for Gold Star is to take the next year and make it successful, and then we'll see.
Right.
And then take 4 years, 5 years, and we'll see. Now, to have a goal, to sell which great goal, right? I would not to turn it on you. I would rather go and make $4 million doing my own thing, and then just leave, than build it up and hopefully somebody buys it and gives me their money.
So no, I get it, but my thought would be like both, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Because nobody's going to buy your company if you're not making money. Well, that's not entirely true, but generally they're going to buy a company that's making money, that's producing. And so if you're somebody that makes $4 million, like, what do you mean leave? Like, just retire?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And then pass it along to Bowen or something, or whoever.
No, it's just that goes back into your whole life philosophy, right? So I went from being 25 years old, owning a house, that I couldn't afford.
Yeah.
I told you the story.
But that's pretty awesome. Like, here's the thing that you said, like, if you have doubt, this goes back to earlier. Like, you bought that house and you made a lot of money on it. Even though, like, you couldn't afford it at the time.
I also had 2 panic attacks. I had, I went through the world's worst stretch of my life.
Yeah.
3-year span of, I did all this to myself. I bought a house. I bought a car. I just, went out every night. So I had credit cards, and I couldn't afford. I had no free money.
Yeah.
I did this all to myself to the point where I was like, I'm just going to leave it. I'm just going to move back home.
Yeah.
They can sell the house. They can sell the car. I'm not going to pay these credit cards. I was literally going to fold my life.
Yeah.
Because I can't keep up with this anymore.
Yeah.
And so now I'm to the point where, that's where I was. I will never go back there again.
Yeah. Right.
And, you talk about emergency fund, you talk about whatever. There is no way
I love that.
I will ever be there.
It's an interesting philosophical question, right? Because some people have to have some sort of motivation, and being on the edge of broke could be that motivation.
Yeah.
Whereas, and maybe that's a motivation, but you don't want to be on the edge of broke. Like, some people, they run their businesses. Grant Cardone is one that comes to my mind. I don't know if you're familiar with him or not, but
I'm familiar with him.
He says, if you, like, when that money hits your account, get rid of it, right? Like, don't spend it on frivolous things, like don't go out to eat, don't go to bars, that sort of thing, but invest it until you're broke. And Damon John has a book called Power of Broke, right? Like, when you're broke, like, you do certain things to make sure that you're not broke. And so it's interesting because, in a way, I want to be like,
dude, you do not
riding the edge, right?
No, you don't.
But while I'm young, I want to do that. When I'm 45, 50, 60 years old, I want to start setting up my life. But right now, I feel like it's hey, these are the years to make money, to make huge bets on yourself.
You know how many Grant Cardones there were before Grant Cardone?
A lot.
Name
You're
one
going to
of
say
them.
one. Anybody that's in the real estate space.
I know.
Yeah.
And what happened?
What do you mean what happened?
So the reason why this is going to turn into a Grant Cardone podcast, he makes money off of selling people stuff to do. Same way as Dave Ramsey does.
He makes a lot of money on that. They're the same. They're, like, in a way, like, their business model is very similar.
It's almost the exact same.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Dave Ramsey, went broke, and then he started, his company, and he's teaching people. He's got his multi-millions off of us buying stuff to learn from him.
Was Dave Ramsey, because I still hold to some Dave Ramsey principles, not very many, but some of them are good. Don't be in debt, right? Like, that's pretty, well, don't be in consumer debt. Like, that's pretty important.
Or get out of debt in general, but yeah.
But, like, he says, like, you want to, like, house debt is essentially bad in a way, but I think that, like, you can use house debt as leverage, but leverage can be good or bad, right? So, anyways, but
with the 2 companies, you know how much money we needed to start Gold Star and Short Reporter?
$0?
$0.
Yeah, $0. Your bootstraps.
Yep.
But what I guess what I'm saying is, Dave, how did Dave Ramsey like make his money? Like, how did he get back from broke? Because I know his story where he was investing in real estate. Real estate went upside down.
He got his notes called.
Yeah. Then he said, okay, I don't want to be in that position ever again.
Ever again.
And I understand that. How did he make his money from that point? Was it then, okay, I'm going to...
Oh, he did it again. Oh, he did it again, but he did it with, he was an agent. He was just an agent.
Realtor insurance?
No, he was just he's a real estate agent. His whole family's in real estate. So he was an agent. He was selling these houses. He was Gingrich grouping his way. He was his own broker, and his family's in real estate forever. So he was just selling real estate. Mm-hmm. So he was an agent. He lost all his money. Well, he had to get money back. Mm-hmm. It was worth over $1 million. He just kept working. Mm-hmm. Got all that paid off. Got foreclosed. Yeah. And then he kept working. So once he had everybody paid off, he had to start again. Well, he was investing. He was for sale by owners, FSBOs, is that what you call it? Yeah. And he was leveraging. Yeah. And he was, he's got
Are you talking about how he went broke right now?
Yeah, that's how he went broke. Yeah. But then, so he stopped doing all that. He stopped leveraging. He stopped taking all his money and riding the edge.
Yeah, right.
Because what happened? YOLO. My name is John. I want to ride the edge. Yeah. Hey, this is an example of what happens when you ride the edge.
Hey, Sloan, if we're living at the Shorters next year. It's because Daddy was riding the edge.
Riding the edge. And so then he just kept working. He was worth $1 million, and then he started making $100,000 again selling houses.
Right.
Okay. Well, then he saved up, paid cash for his first house, which was a little dumper.
Yep.
And then saved up money, and then just went from there. And
that's where he came up with these principles.
Yes.
The Total Money Makeover, the whatever else.
Yeah.
It's
Total Money Makeover, Financial Peace University. And so then he started teaching this. He didn't make those millions until the last 15, 20 years.
Because that's what I was asking. Because that's what you see a lot of times online right now. They call them fake gurus or whatever, where they don't make any money, right? But they are talking about how you could make money, or taking Dave Ramsey's material, regurgitating it online, and selling some sort of course.
Come look at this is how you buy and sell real estate.
Yeah,
which is everyone's trying to do it.
Right. Which is the opposite of, like, say, for instance, like this podcast and people that do stuff like this. Like, there's nothing to sell here. It's just to provide value, right? Like, whether you use me as a realtor or not, like, whatever, okay, cool. Whether you use Josh as Gold Star as an electrician, like, okay, sounds good. But we do want to provide value, so it's nothing to sell.
Right.
I mean, obviously, there's an end goal and a reason why you do these. One is for education for people. Two is, like, selfishly, like, why'd you start your business? Because I think it's a cool thing to talk about. But you see that all the time where it's like, hey, I'm going to sell this thing, and you have no idea. Like, they have no idea about what it is,
Right.
And so I wasn't sure if that's how Dave Ramsey made his money, is what I was getting at.
Right. I mean, the selling your company thing, I mean, that's, you build it up, but there's so many, like, you're not, eventually that's what you want to do. Mm-hmm. But for the next 10 years, you're not going to do that. 10 years, you're going to serve people. You're going to, make sure they get in the right house. You're going to look out for them. Yeah, you're going to grind it out. Yeah. And so by serving, you reap rewards. And my whole purpose of that is that I was like, well, we're going to serve, and then we'll see. Because what I did 3 years ago, didn't think I'd be here now.
Yeah,
I didn't. Why would I own a business? No, I want somebody else to do that.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, no, why would I ever work for somebody ever again?
No doubt. Awesome. Well, Josh, I appreciate you coming by, man. It's been fun to chit chat, and I'm sure we'll do it again at some point. Okay. But man, it was good. I'm sure that everybody out here got some knowledge and now knows more about their electrical side of things.
That's what I'm talking about.
Home buying and all that
Appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. You bet. Thanks, man.